It's Debra Atkinson, founder of Flipping 50. If you're making this mistake with your strength training, it's going to cost you some longevity. Power, much more than strength, will determine how well we live as we're older. It's not just about moving slowly and controlled and being stable. Being stable actually plays into your ability to have reaction skills, your ability to, say, catch your toe on the step or a rug, catch yourself and right yourself so that you don't go down. Stability is not balance, standing still in a cool, dark, quiet room. That's really not when we fall. So it's really important that you know, with balance, we've got to practice stability when we are in unstable circumstances. And we need power when we do strength training. And let me show you how that shows up, because it's not just picking up the weights and moving them quickly, it's a very specific routine. Here's an example. This is a demonstration of strength training with power. First 2 reps are very slow, controlled. Now I power it up. So this is the concentric contraction, and then slow it down and under control, lower it to return again. That power increases the energy expenditure and the bone density, both. Here it is in a squat. So pay just close attention to the legs and lower body. Nice and slow, controlled. But when I'm ready, powering up and then slowly coming down. Powering up, slowly returning down. And you can add more time under tension at each of the stops down here, for instance, if you wanted to. But there are other ways to do power as well. Jumping, switching the legs as opposed to stepping back adds significant amount of power and boost. Jumping up onto a platform, unlike jumping down, which really is just allowing gravity to do the work. It requires strength to come up with muscle. Medicine ball. So say you can't jump. You can do different directional forces, pushing down as hard as possible on the ground with the ball, and you can hold it in your hands and push as if you're going to let it go. And there's momentum you can't see here, but this is effort to move the ball in this way. Long jumping, you can also do instead of lifting up or going up to a step, but working on getting as far as you possibly can. And I'm just going to refresh your memory here. So with the strength training, slow and controlled versus power up and then come down again. Power up and then come down again. Now you are still trying to remain under control the entire time, but the burst of power is the kind of movement we need and get so much less of as we age. And in part, it's because we don't play as much. If you're playing pickleball, racquetball, tennis, you're getting a little bit more power than the rest of us. So definitely keep those things up too. Some of the movements that I've demonstrated are not for everyone. So let's say you can't do high impact plyometrics. You can't do the long jump, maybe you can't do the high jump, but what can you do? So you could potentially take a medicine ball, slam that down on the floor, and or lift and do what we call wood chops in a diagonal, up and down, straight up and down. Those kinds of things you can do. You can even hold it in your hands and slam it down to the floor, standing on one leg or standing on 2. There's a lot of ways that you can say, okay, what will work? And by the way, this diagonal chopping pulls in an element of rotation. Here's why that's important. You know, every time you get up and out of bed, every time you get into and out of a car, we're opening that car door and getting out. There's rotation with a little power if we're pushing that door against the wind or it's big and heavy. And as we get older, if we get weaker, not on my watch, do you have to have that happen? But if it does or did or has, let's regain it. We need some rotational stability. What you want to be careful of is, say, going to use a cable machine at the gym, doing rotation. If you've got any degree of osteoporosis, you just want to be careful about that. And it's not that you don't want to do rotation. We at one point used to say, contraindications, if you have osteoporosis, don't do that. Notice that many of those are gone. We now know we want high impact for those who have osteoporosis after a season of progression, from starting low to increasing it slowly over time. We're seeing high impact, even high intensity strength training, meaning very few repetitions. That's heavy weight to get there. Women with osteoporosis that are postmenopausal actually do very well. They regain bone density, meaning they reverse osteoporosis. And so could you. Just want to be cautious as you progress that you're working with somebody who has a background as a medical exercise specialist, who's been working with women with osteoporosis, who doesn't just brush it off and say things casually like, well, most women over 40 do. And although that's true, there is still a way that we start working with you so that we're doing fewer number of sets, higher number of repetitions, meaning lighter weight to begin, setting a real ground foundation. That's an important component. Similarly with power. So we would not start you immediately going quickly. We would start you going slow with control. So your connective tissue, joints and ligaments, surrounding muscle, not just the working muscle or getting the work that they need. That may take you 2 to 4 months before you're ready for real power. But here's the good news. For those of you that reach a ceiling on your strength training and you feel that you become more vulnerable the heavier weight gets, you're a little bit nervous about injury, you can back off the weight just a little bit and add power. And the research tells us that actually adding power gives you more energy expenditure. That's better overall for metabolism boosting and gives you better bone density in some ways than does going slow and controlled. So there you have it. There's good news no matter how you want to apply it, but don't forget, you cannot do everything slow and controlled. You need a component of power. The definition of power is strength plus speed. Don't do them together married until they independently have been worked on. So you spend a time developing that foundation of strength training, great form, no injuries, feeling good, and you spend a degree of time doing things with more rapid motion, potentially with no weight, but going through the same joint action before we marry the two of them. And that's always, as a good trainer, medical exercise specialist, fitness instructor, you should notice that this is always the way someone teaches you. They take the strength training, they take the cardio move, and they take the tool and teach you each of them independently before they ever teach you tricks with them together. I hope that was helpful. Drop your questions down below, whether it's about strength training, about power, energy expenditure, and or more ideas on how to put power in your workouts and in your longevity.